Hey, it's Sick Boy from the Game House Collective, and welcome to the Gaming House Collective podcast. And today we've got Jack and Dan discussing their new game, Castles in the Sky. How are you guys doing?
Very well, thank you. It's good to be
Yeah,
here.
I'm good, thanks.
Okie dokie, great. Just do a quick bit of housekeeping. Sam, what have you been doing this week? You been playing much games?
I haven't because I've been working every single day, but I managed to play Persona 4 for like 20 minutes so I could make another sicker dick video. So that's gonna be.
Was that the PS2 emulation or the Vita one?
No, the real game, the real game. Wink.
So, good audio wink there.
Apart from that, just flat out work, and then Persona 4, and that's just a bit about it. Oh, and I played this game called Castle in the Sky.
Oh, that's
Ooh.
interesting. That's interesting that you should mention that.
Ooh,
Yeah,
suspicious.
you'll never guess what we worked on.
No!
It's gonna blow
Yeah,
your
and I
mind.
won't discuss what I've been playing this week because I will drive Sam into a mad rage.
Oh, is it that?
Actually, to be fair, I only played it a bit today. I've had it. It's that's the weird thing. I actually got Beyond Two Souls delivered on Thursday, and I was like, oh, I should play that. And then I thought, eh. Then there was a 75% sale, and I've been playing Devil May Cry 4 on Steam on my laptop since. It's like, no,
Hey,
sorry.
you know, it's not just Devil May Cry 4 that's 75% off though. It's also DMC,
Mhm.
which is awesome, and everyone should buy it.
Was it?
Jack,
I thought it was
I think
50%
there's a
off.
soft spot for it.
I
No,
think
it's
it's okay.
75% off DMC.
My,
You don't think it's okay, Jack? You love it.
my initial reaction.
Oh, do I?
My initial reaction was, "Hey, Capcom are having a sale," and now I'll just close down Steam.
Night Basilisk? Night Basilisk in the stream asks, what's our company name? We're called The Tall Trees. And you can go to... Actually, could someone who's logged into Twitch post the link? to our
Yeah, I was
website?
just about to post it. I was going to go through that in a little bit.
Oh,
I'll put that in there.
Sorry. Oh,
But yeah, there's the website there. So if you guys, while we're going through the stream, you want to watch it live, obviously watching this on YouTube, we'll stick it in the description field, and presumably we might stick it as an annotation on the screen as well, just to make things easy.
Or-
Just because people don't like typing or cutting and pasting, they just like clicking, you know.
It's hard.
Who can blame them?
It's true. It's a very complicated process.
Well, we
That's
can't
pretty
really down that because Castles is controlled entirely with a mouse.
Oh.
Hmm.
That's not really our place to say that that's wrong.
Keyboards and controllers are of the devil.
Totally. That's how it goes.
Alright.
Alrighty, well, so let's move on to just if you guys could just go through your backgrounds in general, so that everyone can kind of understand as to where you guys have been coming from. Maybe just start off with Jack.
I don't know. Dan has more of a traditional background in the industry, so it might be a better place to start with him. But I don't know. It's up to you.
I thought it'd be interesting for the sort of variation for you to come in it from a slightly sideways perspective.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Castles in the Sky is the first game that I have released. I've been working with Dan on a couple of other projects that we're not ready to talk about yet. But I'm not a game designer in the traditional sense. I'm not particularly good at code. I can possibly understand Unity and GameMaker, but not to a level where I can comfortably make games. But I approached Dan quite a while ago talking about building a team for narrative design. And we got talking and realized that our goals in terms of design were very similar to each other. So over the last couple of years or so, we put together the Tall Trees, focusing on trying to create these kind of really interesting sort of tone poem experiences. And I kind of hope that with Castles in the Sky, some people can at least get some sense of what it is that we're going for.
Okay, great.
Dan?
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to think when would be a good time to start. I pretty much lucked out when I was 16 years old. I won an award called the BAFTA Young Game Designers Award in 2010 on the back of a design document I did called Hamster Accidental World Domination, which was sort of like a satirical look at platformers. And yeah, so I basically looked out with that, got to spend time at EA Games, TT Games, made a demo of that with some of the ex-Real Time World guys, just after they pretty much went down, like completely under. And that was enough experience to sort of teach me that I didn't really want to be in AAA. It just didn't seem safe, especially for people in junior positions. So I started doing more indie stuff and promoting myself as an indie, and started making 10 Second Ninja, which is still in development. And then Jack contacted me about forming sort of like, again, a narrative design team. And yeah, we just sort of took it from there really, and started making stuff and discussing things and coming up with projects we wanted to do. And Castle sort of came out of that.
Oh, nice. Just double check. When you were were you at the office in Guildford?
Yes. Yeah, I think they've moved now. I might be wrong.
I know that's when they were there, because I was actually working across the road.
Oh yeah, they had a nice
But
building.
in no way game related, but my office was literally like across the way from the front door.
Did they take your sparking space, and that was why you started to hate them?
No, it was
Probably why.
DRM for a single player game. That's what made me hate them.
Oh, that's justified.
It's an MMO. SimCity is and always will be an MMO experience. That's what it was built for.
Oh, go on.
Oh.
We've got a question.
Oh, that's actually an interesting one. Just gonna interject briefly. We've got a couple of questions sort of lined out, but just want to expand on something that's gone through the comments here. Dad, have you got anything that you'd anything you can kind of say in general about working at a AAA, kind of how that works? Obviously from the perspective, it's a big corporate entity, so I know that you're very much a number less than a name, and it's kind of harder to make a name for yourself. But if you could expand, that'd be good.
Well, the main difference is that the care was quite a lot nicer in terms of like how EA treated their employees and stuff. They had like a gym. They got like pizza ordered for them. Like EA treated their employees pretty well, unless they had to like lay off entire teams. But yeah, they're all right in that sense. But I don't think anyone there felt like they had a lot of creative control, and especially like I did QA at TT Games, and yeah, the attitude there was very much like being surrounded by 14-year-old boys. Like it was kind of sexist and awkward and uncomfortable. It was a very different environment compared to the indie space, where people know where you are, like know who you are, know what you do, and if you say something completely terrible, people know exactly that it was you who said it, and they can call you out for that.
Yeah,
So
there's a level of accountability.
yeah, but as a result of that, it's generally a lot more mature in the indie scene. There's a lot more respect, and people watch what they say a lot more, but in less of a like, oh, we don't want to mess up this PR sense. It's more, I want to represent myself well as a human being, so people don't hate me. So it's very different in that way.
I think that's a big thing that the AAAs and that they're kind of learning, that because their employees are doing the online PR. I mean, that's the thing that people when they talk about Microsoft's online PR, they talk about Adam Orth, who was a game director, and he practically was the biggest kick in their teeth for PR wise in ages, just from him having a little comment on Twitter. That was like a huge PR disaster.
Yeah.
And the same way
that still works with them.
No, he left.
No, he left of his own accord. Quote unquote.
That was the public. Yeah, the public content was that it was. I can imagine it was somewhat of your position's now untenable.
Yes. Like, somebody sent Malcolm Tucker after him.
Yeah, gave him the dead-eyed 12th Doctor stare.
Absolutely.
But that's it's an interesting thing that you can kind of you can see that they're coming around to that more. That's actually, funnily enough, like the issues that we were discussing earlier, talking about Devil May Cry, the DMC thing. The biggest issue that came with that game, the reason it didn't sell as well as it did, was not necessarily because the game wasn't the greatest game ever. It was because the PR was poor, and because there was a bad PR image. It absolutely slaughtered the sales. It really did. I mean, there's plenty of work. There's plenty of worse hack and slash games that sold better than that, but because their PR was as it was, and it was very belligerent, and well, if you don't like my game, well, fuck you, and that kind of killed them totally.
It's really interesting because indies have been realizing, with some measure of surprise over the last few months, that Microsoft's attitudes towards indie developers largely aren't particularly awful, or at least they aren't as apocalyptically
Well,
bad
yeah.
as Microsoft themselves make it out to be. So it really seems to be in that case that Microsoft are their own worst enemies when it
Yeah,
comes to this.
I've spoken to
No,
a
sorry,
guy
go
at
ahead, Dan.
Microsoft who does that stuff. And their policies are actually really, really good. They're actually very similar to Sony's, in that the stance is just we want to make as much of the development free as we can make it. But yeah, Microsoft, they are not good at telling people that. Like they think they have to use a bunch of tricks to get that message across when they could literally just say it and it would be fine.
If they'd have sold this in a positive way, and if they'd have made things that say, like Steam, for example, when people ask Steam what happens when you shut down, and Steam say, we'll send out a patch for all your games and you can play offline forever. If Microsoft just said that, people wouldn't have been so mad.
Yes.
They'd have gone,
Absolutely.
it's all right, we'll patch out the cloud support for all your games and you can play your games in perpetuity off your hard drive. 90% of the complaints were just gone then and there. But no, they said, what, you don't want to live in the future, you weird Luddite? Now buy an Xbox and go, what the hell are you doing?
It was so weird.
The fact that the guy said that, I've forgotten his name now, Don Matrick, he went over to run Zynga. It's just the funniest thing to then go. He tried to get Microsoft to buy them. Apparently tried to get Microsoft to buy Zynga, and then, funny enough, just after he took over as CEO, they published their end-of-year results, and they were in the toilet. And you go, yeah, that's why you lost your job at Microsoft, to be honest, because he tried to get them to buy an absolute turkey of a company.
Yeah, makes sense.
Alright, I have a question. I wrote it down. So, what games, what did you think of the recent rise of indie games due to the likes of Let's Players and things of that sort? Because, as you know yourselves, indie games are getting a lot more spotlight as of recent years.
I think we're going through a kind of golden age of indie games at the moment. It's so exciting to be in as both a designer and as a player. I have a document that I use to keep track of all these amazing games that are coming out, just because I'd forget them otherwise. And a lot of that, I think, comes from seeing not only established personalities play them on YouTube and allow viewers to get some sense of what they are, but also, just coming across an interesting new voice playing a game will often endear me to the game significantly more than any kind of well-managed PR campaign. It's super exciting.
Yeah, we're sort of coming into this we're sort of already there, this new age where the individual is important. For previous years, decades, pretty much since the industry started, apart from the really big greats like Peter Molyneux and things like that, there weren't too many figureheads. There was usually companies releasing trailers, and there was very little sort of face-to-face communication there, especially with consumers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really changed. And I mean, it's amazing for indies because streamers are individuals. They're real people. You can talk to them like real people. And as a result, if you're big or small, I mean, with many of them it can help if you're bigger. But if you just talk to them like human being to human being, that can usually be enough, which makes indie PR a lot easier. It makes it so much easier, which is brilliant. And I love how the console platform holders are really, really embracing that this coming generation as well, with sort of Twitch support on consoles and really opening the doors to indies and things like that. I think it's amazing.
It's so fantastic to me, especially as someone who I guess wasn't so much a designer but was a serious player through the last console generation. It feels like such a paradigm shift to see indies on Twitter approach someone like Shahid Kamal, Sony's fantastic European indie lead, and say to them, hey, it would be really cool if our game was on PS4 and Vita. And Kamal says, yeah, totally, send me an email. And that's so exciting to see. Also, I'm terribly sorry, I'm just going to put a light on. Keep talking.
No problem.
Plus, shit's just cool. I went to a thing called Indie How 2, I think it was 3-4 weeks ago. And he, different platform holders did talks on their console stuff. This is how I know that Microsoft aren't actually that terrible with their policies, and Nintendo are getting better as well. But Shahid finished his talk by playing songs on a guitar. That's just freaking cool. Microsoft sort of acts almost a little bit like dads who really want to impress you.
No, I'm with
Whereas
you there.
Sony are just like the cool uncle who will talk to you like a fellow human being, and will just like
Mm.
be cool around you. And there's a very big difference there.
I,
But yeah, Shahid's very, very good at that.
I tend to find like I get recently, because I don't have a lot of time now that I'm working ungodly hours, but I find that an indie game is a lot easier to get into, especially. I recently bought a game, 30 Nights. It was made by an animator called Gonzo and some of his friends, and I played that for days, and I made a video on it, and I was obsessed with it. I was screaming
Oh,
at my
that the
TV.
zombie survival base building
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
Mm.
And it was just such a great experience. And people who were talking to me on Skype were like, "Sam, you need to put this down." I was like, "Must kill everything."
But yeah, I mean, I think that something like the PlayStation Vita had a really rocky start, and I think that that's hard for it. To be perfectly honest, I don't play the Vita as much as I would like to, but I think over the next 2 or 3 years, I'm so excited at the level of titles that are lined up for the PlayStation Vita. You know, like we've got the Swapper, Rogue Legacy, Starbound. There was another one that I've forgotten that I was going to say, but I immediately forgot. But we got like Spelunky on it, and it's just perfect for these sort of like legitimate, really cool indie games. Wasteland Kings, that you can just pick up and play
Nuclear
in 5 minutes.
Throne now, Jack.
Oh, sorry, Nuclear Throne. Nuclear Throne is a great title, but I gotta admit, I kind of like Wasteland Kings better.
Yeah,
Although the-
Wasteland King sounds like it hints at more of a narrative somehow.
Although
Wait,
the
this is me being super Tortreasy by saying that, but like it like I don't know, I prefer Wasteland Kings, but I get their name change, and they were also
yeah,
really
totally.
awesome about the way they did it as well.
Yeah, In Exile were fantastic about that as well. It wasn't just Glanbia that handled that amazingly. I do just like the mental image of a nuclear throne. I think that's quite cool. You'd like to sit on one?
I don't think you would like to sit on one.
Yeah, no,
The
fair
seat's
point.
warm.
It's very warm. And now I have tentacles.
My brain feels like it's bleeding.
The roof of my mouth tastes like cancer. Okay. Well, just to move on, what kind of to both of you guys, what kind of gaming experiences really influenced you to go in the direction that you've decided to? Both with kind of like the kind of the long-term influences, and also something a bit more recent that's kind of made you kind of think that's a really novel way of going about things.
Do you want to start, Dan?
Yeah, well, yeah, I suppose I was the one who started the project. I wanted to play something that it was like really late one night, and I wanted to play something that made me feel the way that hopefully Castles makes people feel. This sort of like childhood excitement where like everything's big and you've got loads of energy and everything's really awe-inspiring and new and cool. And yeah, I sort of wanted to make a game about that. And in terms of influences, the main games that inspired that were anything by that game company. And you know, things that aren't games, you know, going on a bear hunt and things like that. Like those things we grew up with. Those like books and things like that. Those were inspired us a lot more than I'd say most games did.
Do you know what? Funny
But there
enough,
are
actually. Sorry to cut you off there, Dad. But funny enough, my wife's a teacher, and she teaches reception. She teaches the little 4-year-olds, and things like the bear hunt and stuff is obviously one of her favourite things. So she really kind of like engages with that, and it is generally that kind of thing. I got that kind of when I was kind of playing through it, and obviously, well, when we cut the stream, we're going to pause the stream, and then we'll do a little playthrough for those who don't want, you know, who want to have, you know, don't mind having it spoiled for them, but that I have that kind of feeling, that just kind of like nice little grin on my face, just like. This is nice.
Yeah.
This is a nice experience. It's not that kind of like stress. Some of those kind of games, obviously, you know, I enjoy a stressful experience. And funnily enough, I'm sure you'll be talking about it in the future. But things like when I had a little look at 10-Second Ninja, that is the sort of game. It's like, oh God, I'm going to play this one of that.
Yes.
Just one more go, and then go. How long have I been on this? But that's much more of a nice, serene kind of.
Yeah,
I feel nice and chilled.
I think from my perspective, like Dan said, I think that game company are just absolute masters of consistency in tone, like in their games Flower and Journey. But at the same time, I was really impressed by games like Niplas's Nights that recently came out on PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita, which just involves these sort of twilight explorations of a series of caverns. And even though it seems an odd game to call up with reference to castles, something like Limbo, I think, is really evocative, especially in the way that it handles the sense of going on a journey. Like, a lot of the motivation for playing Limbo for me was, well, what am I going to see next? What's going to happen next? And in Castles, I think Dan and I are both really taken with the idea of sort of presenting interesting things to see on a journey. Like you might, when you're on a train journey and you see stuff out of the window and then it passes by. So I think that along with picture books and things like that, games like Limbo and Nights were real inspirations for me.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
Someone in the we're just trading off now. Someone in the Twitch stream says Limbo's demo reminded them of some Flash games. I would agree that it has that sort of sensibility of like a 2005 Flash game in that it's got that sort of brutality and things like that. But at the same time, it's so polished in terms of just how evocative it is. One of the bosses in it is so terrifying that when it appeared at a point where I wasn't expecting it to, I sort of just like dropped the controller. It does look a bit like a Flash game, but I really wholly recommend playing it. It's
I agree. I think because when I played through Limbo, I played it. I didn't play it on PC. I played it on my TV. I played it through the PS3, and I was playing it through with a 42-inch, high def LED, and it actually is such a crisp, beautiful experience for something that's such a bare palette, and it is obviously graphically it's 80% black with some grey, and that's the game, and it is actually a beautifully simplistic game, and it's surprisingly compelling to even as like a it doesn't sort of bore people who are sitting around while you're playing it. It's a very interesting spectator kind of game, but surprisingly simple. That it just has like a jump and a grab and pull feature, and that's the game.
I think its puzzle design went downhill a bit in the second half, but I mean that would be my only criticism of it.
But even then, the second half was also really good for me because the puzzles definitely did go downhill, but that's when the game started really doing some amazing stuff with the surprisingly serene. Like, obviously the first half especially is very, very, very dark. And there are these very quiet moments in between the puzzles in the second half where the sound is just gorgeous. And it's like the game's like easing you into something. And it really surprised me. And I replayed it recently on Vita, and it still surprised me. Like, I'd forgotten just how sweet some of the bits in that game are. It's really beautiful in that way.
It's a very haunting kind of title.
Yeah, haunting's an excellent word, I think.
You don't really think much about it when you're playing it, but then after you've played it and you've thought about it for a couple of hours, it does dwell in your mind as well, like the giant spider. Like at the time I was just, oh okay, I'll get past this puzzle, but then it was like I was a little boy and this 8-foot tall spider was chasing me.
I think that's the thing, because it has that. I think it keeps you interested because of those kind of just sudden brutal deaths, and like a lot of them you can't predict. There's no one. I would defy anyone to say they picked that game up. They went through the entire thing without a single restart.
Yeah,
because sometimes you go, oh, that's unfair. Oh, what? That's totally cheap death. But it's not a cheap death. But it's there to kind of just like it wakes you up for that second. Then you're back a couple of you're back to the checkpoint a second or so earlier, and then go, oh, I see.
Yeah, I seem to remember reading a fantastic talk with the designer on it. Jeppe Carlson is the name of the lead designer on it. And he was talking about how they tried to avoid trial and error a lot, but there were some points where they deliberately wanted to kill the player just to give them that sort of like shock of, okay, what the hell is going on now? So there are some puzzles that you deliberately can't solve if you haven't done them the first time without dying.
Can you imagine though, like how Limbo wouldn't be anywhere near as affecting if you didn't die? I mean, like, I'm sure the spider would still be sort of creepy, but it's the first time when you get stabbed pretty much down the spine, and you realize that the game will kill you.
Yeah.
And
no, I'm with
the
you,
deaths in that game are gruesome. Like, it complements the game as a whole, even though it's the first time it can be quite frustrating, to the point where I think my second playthrough of Limbo was a lot better than the first one.
I've only played it once.
I think so, because I think the first time some of the mechanics, they just spring at you and you kind of go, what's this mechanic? Oh, okay. I'm doing this now.
Often they literally spring at you.
Hmm.
I think the worst one for me was the 2 bear traps, like on the ropes that came in, and I was like, how was I supposed?
Are they the first ones or the ones that you need to deal with the spider?
I think it's when you're chasing the other child. You know, you're trying to.
Oh yeah.
And then the 2 traps
Yeah.
come. I mean, that was a wake up call. Definitely.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't died in a while until that point.
Yeah. It's a remarkable game.
Alright, Chris? Or is it my turn? No, Chris.
I think it's on you.
Oh, don't put this pressure on. So, in regards, well, we were talking about like the sound. So, what were you aiming for when you were working on the sound of this game? Like, what sort of atmosphere are you trying to create for the player?
It's a tricky question, actually. When we write the score for Tall Trees games, we try really hard to make it. Well, we do it simultaneously with every other bit of design, so that the end result should feel as though it's tied very closely to the game, not only in terms of pacing and things, but in terms of tone. I looked really closely at lullabies and at the sort of musical conventions associated with lullabies. Like their chord progressions close really clearly. There's not much complicated musical stuff going on in there, and I tried to extend that to a sort of piano suite for the game. At the same time, I don't know. I thought back a lot to the. It's odd. I thought back a lot to the way the music I enjoyed and the way I enjoyed making music when I was much smaller, and I tried to include some of that in the game. So the arrangement was probably a lot more simple than something I'd otherwise do, and there were these beautiful toy bells that I had when I was a kid that I actually used in the soundtrack. So I think the overall aim was to write something that felt like a lullaby, or felt very childlike in terms of its sensibilities.
I think that's what you were trying to like. When I was playing it, I just had what you were trying to give me. You know, that childlike whimsy of where am I going, what am I going to see, and like especially like the little collectibles as well. Them making a little noise. It's just
Yeah, the collectibles are a really strange thing in that some people respond to them really nicely, and some people are like, "What the heck are they doing there?" And I can kind of understand both of those things. I think from my perspective, did you guys play Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery?
I don't think that.
No, I actually didn't know how to go.
Oh, okay. I really recommend it. There's a phenomenal bit in Sword and Sorcery where you find yourself in a forest clearing, and the only other thing that's in the clearing is the game's composer playing the guitar. And you sit down with him, and he starts playing a tune on the guitar. And you can interact with the various objects in the clearing to produce musical chimes that are composed so that they're in the same key as the guitarist. And it's this wonderfully serene moment of just like, okay, I'm actually jamming with Jim Guthrie in the middle of this game, and that's super cool. So I really love the idea of musically the player being at least somewhat involved. So what I did was I took the bells that I recorded the game with are a series of bright colors arranged around like a carousel, and you spin it with your hand and you can strike the bells. And I took each of the bells and recorded them individually and sent down a note saying, okay, this bell's red, this bell's green, this bell's blue. And then composed the rest of the soundtrack in the same key as the bells. So what the collectibles you're actually getting are actually little individual representations of the little toy bell thing. And sometimes it doesn't work due to the nature of randomization. You know, sometimes you get notes that just clash with what you're playing. But there are some times that I'm playing it and the notes that the computer randomly draws fit so beautifully with the tune. I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I put it in there.
I didn't realize how much it was actually inspired by Sword and Sorcery until you said it. But now I feel like we've plagiarized somehow.
I don't think
that's interesting. I never thought of that.
I'm super fascinated by the player interacting with the music of the game in a way.
I'm actually really interested in that too. I never really thought of it that way before.
Well, I mean, it's in quite a lot of games. Sometimes it takes you a moment to actually realize it, and then you go, "Oh, wait, what?" Like it's in Portal 2. Each of the interactable objects inside the test chambers have their own tone to them. Like the things that fling you in the air make a sort of tonal kind of chittering noise. Portals, they change their sound subtly depending on the key of the music that's playing at the time. So when you're in a big test chamber and you've set things in motion, the soundtrack actually feels very different depending in the order you did things and what you're using to how it did at the beginning. It's really cool.
There was a little thing like that in Ilo Milo in the cooperative. Basically, like player 2, while he was waiting for his time to shine, you could have like little men would come up in the side of the screen and they would play little
Yes,
drums.
and they play like little tubas and things.
Yeah,
I love that game so much.
It was just so awesome, to try and make it sound like go along with it as well.
Yeah,
at the same time.
Absolutely.
I really loved that. That was a nice touch.
Yeah, generative music is something that I find is really exciting, and we just don't have the facilities or necessarily the know-how at Tortoise to do it yet. But I'm so excited for when we get better, which hopefully will happen, to actually play around with a full music implementation suite and actually, guide the music in the game in a really sophisticated way.
You can tell two musicians are talking here, can't you?
Oh, what? Dan's not a musician so much.
No, I know what I like in terms of sounds, but
I knows what I like.
Well, what happens is I'll send him stuff and he'll just send me a message back saying, "Nope."
Well, it's not quite like that. I'll put it in the game and then like, Jack, here are the various ways in which this doesn't work. But it's the same as anything in the game, really. It happens with the art. It happens with the code.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you're not iterating, then something's wrong.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's good. Just to move on to something a little bit fun. Just like both of you to have a little stab at describing your game in a haiku. You guys know the structure of a haiku.
Yeah. Are we allowed to type it out in the Skype box so I can see what it looks like?
Yeah. Knock yourself out. Take a minute. Take a minute if you like, just to make sure you haven't gone. Hang on, that was a 6.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
While you do that, Jack, I'm a friend. Remember how to structure a haiku.
Yeah, it's 5 syllables, 7
5
and
syllables,
5.
7 and then 5.
I'll provide some countdown music.
Man, I suck at these so much. This is going to be terrible.
This is amazing countdown music.
Thank you. The final countdown.
Oh, don't start singing Europe. No.
It was the heat of the moment. Is Asia better?
All no continent deserves to have its own band. No. That was a really random pub quiz question I saw once, where someone was like, "Okay, name a band that's from a place it's named after," and then the next question was, "Now name bands that aren't from the place that they're named after." So it was like Europe were from Europe, Asia weren't from Asia, and stuff like that.
Foreigner weren't foreigners.
That's subjective.
Wait, so it's 5, 7, and 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alright, cool.
I'm gonna say we'll edit this out to make it seamless, but we won't.
Okay, right. I think I've got one.
What's editing?
Oh man, I just realized the first and last lines can both be castles in the sky. That's half my work cut out right there.
That'd be good if you went castles in the sky. Go buy castles in the sky. Castles in the sky.
That was That's actually why we called it Castles in the Sky. We were thinking about lots of different other titles, and then we were like, no, one day we'll be asked to do a haiku. We'll have it.
One day a man and his lackey will ask us to do a haiku.
I'm not your lackey.
I'm your lackey.
Wait, who's the lackey?
Fly, Sam, fly.
You're nearly done then, Dan.
I fuck you.
Nope.
Dan, do you want me to write your sneaky haiku, Dan?
I'm halfway through mine. It'll be amazing when it's done.
I'm just imagining like us in a classroom and me and Chris are just the teachers right now. Oh, children, hurry up. Creativity.
I can't get the haiku right, sir.
I don't want
I can't get it right.
I'm forcing creativity upon you and you will appreciate me. You will be one day be called upon to make a haiku at random.
Right,
Will this ever be relevant in real life?
Okay, I've got a haiku.
Alright, do you want to go first, Dan, or Phil?
Yeah, Cause we better finish with yours so it leaves a better impression. Um, Castles in the Sky, An Adventure in the Sky, $1.50.
Oh,
That's
That is the best I could do.
that's fantastic.
And now you're
Alright.
gonna find out why Jack's our wordsmith.
I don't know about that, Dan. Here we go. Okay, here's mine. Mine's actually a performance haiku. Here we go. Everybody likes clouds. In our game, there are many. Please look at the clouds. That's my haiku.
Okay, so don't buy this game for the writing.
It's actually
We promise
No.
the soundtrack is better.
Buy it for everything else.
so. I actually have a question.
Oh, wow.
Only
That's-
$1.50.
That's good.
That's leading-
Small child in the clouds. Hair always gently sways gently like the grass. Just 95p.
Yes, yes, Dan, we need to hire him or her.
That's a
We
good
need
one.
to hire them.
Jack, you're not writing our games anymore.
Nope, I'm out. This is excellent. It's really odd that you ask us to do a haiku where the actual game itself is basically a poem, which was sort of a side effect.
That's good.
But yeah, we're just doing it in various different international poetry styles.
Which is actually good. I actually have a question about that. So the poem in the game.
Oh, that was a nice segue.
Sorry. The poem in the game. Was that something that you wrote? One of you wrote personally, or was that something that you found, or?
Oh no, that's something that we wrote.
You say
I wrote
we?
that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
had
I
nothing
don't
to
know.
do with it.
It's I don't know entirely what the well, you work with me on it. I don't know entirely what the line is in referring to the studio and the individual people in it. Yeah, I wrote that. I wanted to. I'm not entirely sure why it rhymes. I don't know. I think when I started writing it, I pretty much quickly realized that I wanted it to be like a picture book, like We're Going on a Bear Hunt or something. And those books have really pretty unique structures to them. And so I thought, oh, well, I'll write it in rhyming couplets. And I think once I started, it really solidified it. It really solidified in my head the idea of it as both a picture book and a lullaby, in a way that I don't know if it would have done if we'd written it in prose. Also, I don't know. We've already had some people on YouTube saying that the game it's like pretentious and deep and everything like that, and that's really not what we're aiming for. We're aiming for literally like writing a picture book, like a children's picture book. There's no inner message, and I think that if we wrote it in prose style, it would have been quite hard to pull off that sort of lightness of touch that distinguishes it. It's like, okay, this is a children's book, as opposed to indie designers trying to make a point.
Which is
Someone said,
that was weird, like because we got that comment. We both think of the same one comment that we discussed, which said like the game was literally too deep for you. Like it's literally written like it's for children. Like we couldn't have made it much more simpler, or Jack couldn't have made it much more simpler. Like. Which sounds like I'm damning his writing. It's very well written, but it's not. It's not trying to be smarter than you. It's deliberately trying to be
we hope so.
like.
We hope so. We can't really talk qualitatively about our own game, but
that is a very good point. But yeah, I mean, at least the goal was to make it seem like it's written for children.
Yeah.
So yeah, the idea that it's trying to be deep or have some sort of like complex meaning to it is strange to us, because it absolutely wasn't the intention at all.
I do wonder if because it sort of indents this kind of sense of tranquility, maybe people are trying to think there's some kind of deeper kind of some kind of Zen logic to it, when really the idea is that it is supposed to, presumably it is supposed to be kind of relaxing and nice. And I was thinking it's actually the kind of thing that you could sit there and like literally play with a small child to help kind of like get rid of it. It has that kind of thing, but as well, it's not necessarily a childish experience as much as it evokes that kind of the sort of tranquil sort of child that no one actually really had that kind of tranquility during childhood, but we kind of associate with and we like it for that.
It's like that classical nostalgic childhood
that no one really had because they were too busy kind of poking dog poo with a stick to actually they're
like
not
the
quite
Binding
as
of Isaac.
I burned.
Yeah,
things.
but It's not kind of as idealized and as beautiful as people like to think it is, but it evokes that level of kind of
Yeah,
just
at least
nice.
we hope so. I
Yeah.
think part of it is that
Yeah.
there's definitely a trend of indie games, and I'm not knocking them at all. I love so many of them that start out by presenting something and then offering a twist on it. You know, it's a pretty classic indie development trope. Like it's a picture book, but there's some twist, there's something more. So I think it's definitely within people's rights to look at the game at first and go, "What are they planning?" Whereas in fact, what we're actually planning is just like a picture book. It's just a picture book.
Not like a Joe Pasquale joke where you think he's naked in his bathroom, but he's really on a bus. And the very
Yeah,
last
exactly
line
right.
just swerve it at you.
Yeah, absolutely. One of our friends, when we were originally designing it, was just like, "Yeah, he should just be sucked in by an aircraft engine."
Just as a very, it's like that'd be interesting. Yeah, for another title, that'd be.
It'd be phenomenal
that.
if we'd done that, but only for one copy of the game. So
Oh,
You got the random, just randomize the file that gets downloaded, just 1 in 1,000 to get sucked into a turbine. That'd be awesome.
yeah, absolutely, fantastic. But
That's a
no,
good question here. Someone just asked here. I mean, it's worth bringing up. Someone's asked, obviously, when you say for children, do you mean as a theme or as a demographic? I mean, I'd assume it's purely for the theme as opposed to the demographic. It's not really a game for children as much as it is a game about that kind of tranquil kind of childhood reflection.
It's the theme. But already we've there's a video on YouTube of a guy's son playing it, and people have talked to us about buying like licenses for a classroom, and so it's really heartening and exciting for us to see that the game is being played with children, because there are so few games like that that parents can sit down and play with children that aren't this kind of saccharine. I mean, I love it, but like Viva Pinata or something. So it's really exciting from my perspective to see that that's a thing that people are doing, even though it wasn't necessarily our target demographic when we were designing.
Well, it was also to the point where it surprised me, which is actually kind of like it's an embarrassing realization that the game we made about childhood is enjoyed by children. But like it
Well,
literally didn't
surprise.
cross my mind until we released it, and people started saying like, "Is this for kids?" And we're like, "Not intentionally." Jack described it as being like in an interview once as being sort of like a Pixar movie where it's just supposed to be for anyone. Which I like that a lot better than saying it's for demographic X or demographic Y. Yeah, it definitely surprised me personally when kids sort of liked it.
I'd liken it. The closest thing I can liken it to in just general theme would actually be the movie version of Morris Sendak's Where the Wild Things Are, on the grounds that kids like it because it evokes the picture book. But for me, watching it as an adult, I found it so deep. I kind of actually like a deep and emotionally and kind of very relaxing, but also kind of an emotional experience. That obviously I'm not saying that your game is because I mean, with it comes to Where the Wild Things Are, actually like emotionally devastates me because I feel it's the most one of the most kind of heartbreaking things. But it's that kind of that it appears to be for children, but in fact an adult could get more from it. Whereas for a kid would get a certain degree of that was nice, but whereas an adult would walk away going, hence asking the sort of question, what are you trying to say? What are you trying to say about my childhood and my youth by doing this story about jumping through clouds? To a narrative, kind of what is the whole point here? Are you trying to tell me that my life is too weighed down and that I must float up into the? Don't tell me what to do. You pretentious indie developers.
We went through a couple of revisions of the script where I'm pretty sure that in a couple of early drafts there was more of a sense of like the boy was running from something, not necessarily in like a creepy sense, but there were lines about how he's escaping the general mundanity and everything on the ground, but that felt a bit preachy. It felt a bit preachy, so we cut it.
We actually had a weird moment as well. There used to be a bug where there's a moment in the game where a kite flies past in the background, and a cloud is supposed to spawn that you can then jump on and continue up, and that cloud wouldn't spawn, and we got a message back from one of the testers who was like, "Is there some sort of meaning to that?" And we're like, "No, it's just a bug." But I think people expect with indie games that there is going to be some deeper meaning, even if there isn't. It's sort of implied because it's indie. So I think
somewhat damningly.
if people, well, no, it's more in terms of indie audiences expect it, I think. So there might be a slight element of us. I don't want to say subverting it, but we definitely try to avoid that. We didn't want it to seem like we had some smart message that we were trying to reveal, because we don't. It's just supposed to be a nice thing.
I suppose that is the one thing that, although you can't really call indie a genre in any sense with regards to games or music or art or any kind of art, but it's funny that there's always this kind of the idea of doing these kind of small independent niche titles that people just kind of sit there and go, I'm so clever for having bought this.
Yeah.
I'm so clever to do it. And there is
It's
that kind
very
of issue
easy.
that people try and make indie. Some people, there are a minority of people who try and intentionally try and make it not a for public consumption thing, because they want to make it obtuse and for only the elite who can't afford to buy something more expensive, which seems bizarre when you think about
Yeah,
it.
we don't want to make people feel clever. We want to make them feel happy.
There it is. That's the slogan.
Yeah, that's the tagline. That's a tagline for your website right there. That's the Tall Trees tagline.
And then someone,
We don't want to make it.
and then someone will try to find a deep meaning in that, and then it's just like, stop telling
Yeah,
me how
absolutely.
to feel.
It's a Half-Life 3 teaser. What? No. Yeah.
I'm not equipped to handle this. When about about time does your game actually go on sale?
Do you want to do this, Dan?
Yeah, sure. It goes on sale on the 18th of October, so that is 6 days away. So no pressure to make the game work perfectly. But yeah, it's coming out in a few days. We've got some stuff planned for the next few days. We got like some trailers on the way and things like that. We've shown the game to some people and got some very lovely quotes. So I'm looking forward to sort of sharing those with people.
Yeah, we've been so lucky in terms of the people that have shown us support and given us advice for the game.
And just giving us the time to play the game. Like, that's amazing that people actually took time out of their day to play it for us. Yourselves included.
It's really exciting. Yes.
I think that's kind of the thing. Again, another thing that there's within it kind of harkens back to what we were talking before. There's a great deal of kind of personal investment and there's obviously with some cases there's a matter of pretentiousness, but there's much more of a kind of a human kind of giving nature in it, and the kind of I'm creating something, please like it, rather than this kind of like I'll buy it or you're not cool enough to hang with me, which is what you know, as with Microsoft's messaging is very much if you don't give me £500, I'm not interested in even looking at you, which is kind of which is like that terrible PR that they have.
I don't necessarily agree with his design all the time, but Jonathan Blow said a really fantastic thing a while ago, which was that the first thing that you're asking of players is that they act, is that they do something, and that's a really big thing to ask. And I think that it's really important for indie developers to keep that in mind. You know, you're asking something of your players. That'd be really, it'd be really nice if they did it.
But there's also a flip side to that in terms of support, which is if the players are invested and they do want to act, is the amount that they will help you is ridiculous. I mean, the amount of support we've had just by asking for it is like we didn't. I don't think either of us expected the game to already be doing as well as it's doing. Everyone's been very, very supportive with sharing it around and things like that, and it's because even before playing the game, they're invested in us, I guess. Because there's that human connection, because they are interested in us as people. They want us to do well, I guess. Which is a very scary relationship to have. Because we need to make the game good now.
But what we're super thankful for.
Yes, but that's the thing. Is even if they don't play, just sharing it is amazing. That's incredible.
I feel in particular when I buy an indie game, you know, I'm not helping out a game studio, I'm helping out this person, and by playing it, you know, I'm doing what they want, and I feel like I'm helping that person, and it feels a lot more connected that way. Like I'm personally investing in this person to do better, you know, and to make more because I want to see more from them.
Yeah, and you know, people like you and streamers just do a fantastic job with that. Not only from a personal perspective of like you do actually support us, but also in terms of getting the word out. That's like we couldn't be more thankful.
Night Basilisk raises a good point where he says or she says, ideally you should not be asking, we should want to do it. Which is true. And I think that's the reason why we have got so much support so far, is people want to help us. And in terms of like PR, it makes it very, very easy for us because we literally just have to tell people that it's there. And because we are so lucky and people have been so kind, people will just do the rest, which is amazing, and we couldn't be more thankful for that.
It's a happy note to go.
Angel Heart Knight now raises the point that but we can't do it if we don't know about it. Is it wrong for indie developers to try and put themselves out there rather than waiting for votes to come to them?
Not at all.
This is sort of the thing, is any promotion we do is mainly based around making sure people know it's there, and then we try and let them do the rest.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the sort of the fine line to draw. There's certainly people in the indie scene who they don't even want you talking about your game. They do not like that, and there are also people in the indie scene who are sort of more exploitative, I guess. But our sort of philosophy on that is, if we think we've made something good, so long as we tell people that it's there and we make sure they know it's there, they should be able to do the rest. As long as we give them all the information, they can make their own minds up about it. And
I
as long as
realise
we make
that
sure
might sound like
information is available.
we realise that might sound like we're fobbing it up on people. I don't think that's what we intend to do at all. It's just a case of your game won't go anywhere if people don't know that it exists. And I think that if people see something that they enjoy and something that they want to support, that's the sort of basis that leads to a groundswell in support when it comes to releasing a game, or anything really.
I think that's kind of very much the thinking behind when we set this whole thing up in the first place, with the whole kind of idea of the gaming as a collective, and the idea being that I personally feel that with regards to the large AAA companies, I mean they're always going to be there, but their stranglehold is somewhat waning, and that there's much more of an opportunity for less of these kind of formal, less of people profiteering, because obviously the biggest issue has always been that a creative person creates a product, and then a money person advertises it, packages it, and proceeds to sell it. And with regards to having the internet as we do, it means that a lot of these sort of middlemen, and as itself as a business, although it can be profitable for the creators, it can be less profitable for the commercial side, which will mean that they will start to move out of the industry. And again, with things like crowdsourcing, that the money can be raised without having to go to someone and going, okay, well, I'll create something if it's sellable to you. And then they put you in a situation where you either have to be artistically compromised, or no. We don't want that kind of game. Sorry, we actually don't want a whimsical platform. What we want is an FPS with a persistent online multiplayer. Well, I don't want to make
one of those now.
Well, that's what makes money.
I think we should do that.
Yeah, totally.
We should follow this up with an MMO FPS about childhood.
Yeah,
be fantastic.
We do it free to play, and it's like it's £15 for a gun skin. It makes no difference to the game.
I need to pay,
and you lose your gun when you die.
I need to pay £20 so I can get the camo-coloured balloon.
Every time you press R, a pound comes out of your PayPal account. What the hell?
Yeah, exactly. That's how it works.
Cowboys in the Clouds. Sorry, Cowboys in the Clouds sounds like the most amazing game. I would legitimately want to play that.
Cowboys in space.
People have done Sky Pirates. Why hasn't anyone done Sky Cowboys?
Oh,
because that would legitimately be pretty cool.
Dan, shh. This is our next game. Shh.
Definitely. I will fully endorse this.
I think it was Ricky Gervais who once mentioned that everything can be made better by the prefix of Muppets in. Muppets in the Clouds would be awesome.
Absolutely. Muppets in drag.
Oh, that would
Muppets in drag.
That would have been such a good
Although,
Easter
to be honest, that's just the Muppets.
That would have been such a good Easter egg if Gonzo just flies past on a red balloon past you and goes, "Hi!"
Oh. Or ninjas versus robots. Who'd have thunk that getting brought up in the comments?
Well, I couldn't possibly comment on that.
Ninjas versus Nazi
I have
robots.
no idea what that comment is about.
Dan, do you know anything about ninjas?
Nothing. Or Nazis or robots. To be honest, I honestly actually don't. They are 10-second ninja, but I know very little about it,
I'm just waiting for people to be like,
which bodes well.
you put the swastika band on the wrong arm.
Well, someone, for a while there was a glitch where it would flip the swastika, and people were like, "Why do half the robots say peace, and why do half of them have the swastika on them?" I was like, so yeah, I had to redo the art for that.
It's like, you're that serious about your Nazi iconography?
Yeah.
No
Well,
comments.
'cause otherwise you're killing a peace robot, and that's bad. Killing Nazi robots, no one can get mad at you for that.
No.
They are definitely evil, and they're from space.
And they're from space.
Was it the Iron Sky? That was such a great film. You seen that?
I really want to see Iron Sky. I really
The
wanna
idea
see
of
it.
Nazis in space attacking Earth, it's just amazing.
It feels like one of those films which I probably should have seen, but I haven't yet.
I think it came out last year. I think it's just this ridiculously kind of camp B movie, and it's and literally the premise being there are some Nazis they escaped to the moon. Now they're invading Earth in their like Messerschmitt spaceships. It's just absolutely mental.
Which is the greatest idea.
It's not a good film by any means, but it's just you spend the whole thing with this grin on your face going, this is what you want to see. This is just in the way that kind of like Pacific Rim was that kind of like everyone wants to watch robots punching monsters. This is great. This is like big budget, like Power Ranger style in a fun action film with no point, nothing else evolved. It's just robots punching monsters. That's awesome.
And that's why Sharknado did so well.
Yeah.
The Sharknado is weird. People seem to think that the people who made it didn't know it was stupid. Like a lot of people are like, "Oh, Sharknado, how could they make this?" As if the people behind the camera weren't going. People are going to go nuts over this.
I think it's
like
quite
Snakes in a Plane, where they were like, "This is such a good thought piece."
I think it's quite a cynical.
With that, people said like, "This is such a stupid film, Snakes on a Plane. Why would they make that?" It's like because you're talking about it in that way. That's exactly what they want you to do.
Ghost Shark is another one that they made.
Yeah, also, avalanche sharks. Have you seen avalanche sharks? It's these sharks that swim through a snow avalanche.
What's the film with the Nazi zombies in the Alps?
No, Dead Snow. Somebody just mentioned it in the.
And it says on
Somebody just mentioned
it says on the front.
That's amazing. I love that film.
On the front cover, Ein, zwei, die.
That film is just such a fun, like, just campy horror film.
Oh my god!
I like the Entrant has mentioned that actually about Nazis in space. Yeah, that is Star Wars. Just to comment, that is basically Star Wars.
Yeah, but that's also samurai in space. There's all sorts of stuff that inspire stormtroopers.
Star Wars is one of those things that mostly gets away with its kind of tonal mishmash, but when it doesn't, boy, it doesn't get away with it.
Especially in the prequels when it has just no clue. It does not know what it wants to be.
What are we doing again?
I think that's always the kind of
thing. Political subtext.
Hot on concept and just as a film, and they're kind of like the tone was like, what is the tone? Oh, we don't care. Is it a kind of a spiritual kind of a Buddhist thing? No. Is it an action thing? Was it a western? Is it a 1940s war film? I don't know. It's
I think
the original just about works, and it's really
just about.
Yeah, but then it's as they start adding more in, where you're like, okay, pull the reins in a bit. And then there are little furry bears running around, and you're like, right, I'm done.
Does anyone watch Spaced?
Yes.
No, I
love Spaced. There's a great bit, and I think it's the start of the second series, where they're going on about the Phantom Menace. And it's Bill Bailey.
I know what you're about to
so he starts screaming at that kid about Jar Jar Binks, and then Bill Bailey's like, what about the Ewoks? The Ewoks were shit! And he's like, but the Ewoks make Jar Jar Binks made the Ewoks look like fucking Shaft!
They also have that bit where he's like burning the film on the bonfire or something.
Yeah, but it's actually done to the Star Wars theme as well.
Yeah, and what's brilliant about that is I'm forgetting his name, Peter Serafinowicz or whatever. Yeah, because he's in space and he voiced Darth Maul.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Simon Pegg hates him in the show. It's brilliant.
I love that. That's why I sleep in the bed with a beautiful woman and you live in a bedsit. It's not a bedsit, it's a flat.
That show's so good.
Anyone who's not aware of Spaced and has watched Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End, go watch Spaced. That whole thing should come in one big box set. The whole thing should just be done together.
It's Edgar Wright before he toned down his style, and oh my god, does it show? I mean, it's like it's ridiculous that he got greenlit. Like it does so much nerdy, weird stuff, but it's all brilliant.
Interesting ones for those really sort of geeky here. That Mark Heap plays Brian. Originally, that was meant to be Julian Barrett from the Mighty Boosh.
Oh wow!
But he had a contract. He had a contractual issue, so he couldn't make it. So they got Mark Heap, and Mark Heap's brilliant in it.
Yeah, Mark Heap's brilliant in everything.
He is. Greenwing. His character in Greenwing is like one of my favourite characters of all time.
He's great in Friday Night Dinner.
Yeah, he's just possibly one of my favourite actors up there. In fact, funnily enough, going back to, I think this was before we started streaming, but again with Kevin Eldon. Him and Kevin Eldon are my favourite just sort of random British comedy actors who pop up in random things in supporting roles.
Yeah, I like Kevin Eldon. He's a good chap. He's a good chap.
He's a good Englishman.
Top fella.
He is. Top hole.
I'm from Northern Ireland. I don't know what you're saying.
Nothing, basically.
I'm going to go have some cabbage and taters. I'm going to leave you to your Englishisms.
Press Extra have also put an interesting point here about saying Edgar Wright's one of the only directors who I've seen properly represent people playing games in a movie or show. Very true. Watching him drown Lara Croft, for example, in Space, which is Simon Pegg drown Lara Croft going, is this the point of the game? Nope. It depends on your mood. Today I just want to drown people.
I was really surprised to see, I was watching Peep Show, and I was really surprised to see Child of Eden in Peep Show. They played Child of Eden at one point. And it actually has a pretty prominent part in the episode. And I was like, oh, that's nice to see. How about that?
Yep, they also show Space Jet and Time Splitters and Shaun of the Dead. Top left.
Oh yeah, it's Time Splitters.
Yeah.
Yeah. It helps that like Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg are total nerds.
Yeah. It is just great to see that what they created together. I love the fact that as a body of work is just great. Just people should so do that. Just sit and watch Spaced all the way through, then watch the 3 films, and then go, that's it. That's the body of like work of their just kind of their childhood thing going, I need to move on from this now. It's like a perfect full stop, I think. I think that The World's End is like a lovely full stop at the end and gone, done with that now. That's brilliant. Now let's all move on with our lives and do something else.
They're not going to. You just know, though.
No. Well, obviously being the point at the end of the film that Simon Pegg's clearly not.
Yeah. What show is this? What show is it that we're talking about representing gamers? Spaced, yeah.
Yeah, Spaced. It's brilliant.
The comment section govern themselves.
Yeah. It is that sort of fantastic stuff. It's just that perfect encapsulation of that kind of like mid-20-something kind of blatantly, it's just so good. It's so good. It's a proper like capture of a generation, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
I'm too young for that generation.
Yeah, to be fair, there is not much internet involved in Spaced.
Not a lot.
But lots of video games.
Yes.
Video games. We like video games.
I like video games. Why don't more people say video games? That is an awesome way of saying it.
I say video games all the time, and it annoys everyone I know.
It should catch on. I like it.
Video games and Facky Book.
Facky Book. Okay, look, before we break from the stream to go start the game, just to double check, just so everyone's aware. So, what platforms is it going to be? Is it going to be on? And obviously, we talk about the places you can buy it from. Obviously, we'll be putting in the website link in the description field and in the comment section here.
It's coming out on Mac and PC on October the 18th, and you can buy it direct from our site via a Humble widget. It costs $1.50. cents. So if you're looking at a Coke or a Starbucks or, I don't know, an incredibly cheap game, pick ours.
I don't know, I'm going to need my latte. It costs the same
Yeah,
as a
maybe buy the
sausage.
latte in that case.
It's the same
But
as a sausage
you
roll.
also- Those are so overpriced. That's the reason the game's so cheap. It's because of that
Yeah.
Greg's person.
Yeah, we just wanted to beat Greg's in terms of sausage rolls.
Yeah.
But you also get the soundtrack as well.
A sausage roll.
Yeah, that's
of a
another
game.
thing we should probably mention. You get a pack of wallpapers, including brand new art done by Dan, and you get the complete soundtrack along with a couple of bonus tracks and brand new music that I composed after finishing work on the game. And I think we're pretty proud of it.
We get the Scream
Good stuff. The question there, someone just double checked. Is there a version that runs on Linux?
Linux.
Apparently, there isn't, but apparently if you wrap it in wine, it works fine. That wasn't supposed to rhyme. Damn it.
So there's that.
Okay, great. So what we're going to do is, obviously, for the sake of content on YouTube, we're going to end this now for the sake of YouTube, and then we're going to go on and do a quick playthrough on the stream. So those guys who don't want to have the experience spoiled for them, probably a good time to jump out. But we're going to go through the game and just discuss it, maybe some of the finer points and some of the tone and what have you. Just because it'd be interesting. Obviously, those of you who don't want to do that, and even if you're interested and did enjoy the stream, go buy it anyway. Because otherwise. Yeah, you can either support them or not. That's your call.
You can't be in the Cool Kids Club if you don't buy it.
Yeah, you can't be in the cool indie scene if you don't.
We kind of prefer if you did, but it's your choice.
Personal preference. If you could pay me for my work, that would be nice.
That would be nice.
Yeah, if you could buy our game, that'd be great.
That'd be. This is not going to Office Space. This is not the time and place for Office Space references.
I didn't get the memo.
Oh, shut up. If you could just move your desk over to the back over there.
Alright.
Is that my... Oh, I'll be looking for that stapler.
Excuse me, do you have my stapler?
When you're going to bring the place to the ground.
Alright.
Alrighty, right. I'm just gonna do a little sign off here, and then we'll just go into pause. We've got a lovely holding GIF for those of you who weren't here at the very beginning to entertain you while we just switch over the view a little bit. Anyway, for obviously those of you watching on YouTube, obviously if you want spoilers, then go across the other video. Failing that, have a check over the website, see if you're interested in buying it, see if you're interested in supporting it. You can find them. You can find their Twitter feeds here on the account and everything, and the website's going to be in the description field. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. I'll catch you guys later.